For years, Lexus dealerships have been asking the company to give them a 3-row luxury family vehicle to sell. Lexus tried its hand with the 3-row RXL, but it had such a tiny third row that it wasn't really usable for families. The GX was an expensive off-roader that didn't really have a big third row either, and the LX is a flagship that's just out of reach for a lot of customers. Enter this, the 2024 Lexus TX. It's based on the same platform as the Toyota Grand Highlander, and for the first time ever, it looks like Lexus finally has some strong competition for Acura and Infiniti. Let's check it out. All right, so let's start out with a walk around of the new TX. The one that I am showing you is the TX 500h F Sport. You can only get the 500h as an F Sport. It's similar to the RX 500h, which is also only offered as an F Sport model. You will also be able to get this as a TX 350 and a TX 550h Plus plug-in hybrid, and I will be driving all three in this video. Let's first start talking about the front end, where we have this new iteration of the Lexus spindle grille. They call it the unified spindle. So basically, all of the grille here is actually painted in body color. This one is Nightfall Mica, this nice deep blue. I happen to really like how this looks in darker colors. Lexus first showed off this vehicle in white, and I was not a fan. I think it looks terrible in the lighter colors like white, but in a dark color like Nightfall Mica, it's not bad. Now, you might notice this big gap here in the grille. You actually have your radars and sensors and stuff in there, so it does serve a functional purpose. I don't think this is the most attractive SUV out there, but when you're competing against the Acura MDX and the Infiniti QX60, I don't know if you really need to be. I think that those two vehicles are slightly cooler looking than the TX, but I don't know that a Lexus customer is necessarily going to care. That being said, that this F Sport model is the coolest TX of the bunch. We've got these big 22-inch dark gray wheels. You can also get 22s on other trims as well, but this is the finish that you're gonna get on the F Sport with this dark gray. The other wheels are going to look a little bit different than this. The plug-in hybrid actually has some really nice looking wheels as well that kind of remind me of the old Avalon touring wheels. They kind of look like a scalpel. Pretty cool. And we do have the F Sport logo here as well on this TX 500h model. Now let's talk about how this kind of stacks up in the Lexus lineup. So this car has a 116.1-inch wheelbase. To compare that to the RX only has a 112.2-inch wheelbase. So this is significantly longer in the wheelbase, and the length as well is 203.1 inches compared to just 192 for the RX. So this is a big boy. In fact, this is actually longer than the flagship LX. So as we get on the inside, you're going to see that this does have a ton of space. Now here in the back, we've got the connected taillight bar that has become a signature Lexus design. Right here is going to be where you have your model designation. So we have TX 500h, letting us know that we have direct 4 all-wheel drive as well. No visible exhaust even here on this F Sport model. It is a 3-row SUV after all. You shouldn't expect big old dual exhausts sticking out the back. So as we hop in the TX, we're gonna notice the Lexus door handles that don't actually move. This has been on a lot of Lexus products, including the RX and the NX. Over here, you have this little button to get out, and you can go ahead and pull that twice in an emergency if your battery is dead, what have you. We have the F Sport, as I mentioned during the walk around, so the interior is going to be a little bit different than other TX models, but I wanted to show you this one because I think it just does the best job of showing how premium the TX can be. We've got these F Sport seats with this really nice perforation, and we get a little bit of Alcantara here on the sides. These are a little bit more bolstered than the seats you're going to get on other TX models, so keep that in mind if you're looking at this F Sport model. We do have F Sport embossed here in the headrest. These seats are heated and ventilated as well, and the color that you're seeing is called birch, so you have this nice like white grayish color with a little bit of black. I really love the lightness of this interior. I drove a couple of TXs earlier today that had black interiors, and they just didn't feel as nice and as elegant as this F Sport model does. So now let's go ahead and hop in, and I can show you some of the technology. We've got our power button up here. as it is on a lot of Lexus models. Now, as standard, you are going to get this 14-inch touchscreen. We've seen this touchscreen in other Lexus models before. You have all of your climate controls that are going to stay here on the bottom, including your fan speed. You do have these nice little knobs to control the temperature. You do have a volume knob as well. So I do like how there are some physical controls here. You can also talk to the car very easily and ask it questions by just saying, "Hey, Lexus,
how can I help you?
What's the weather today?"
Here is the weather for Lakeway, Texas on Thursday, October.
And it'll tell you. So you can ask it pretty much anything. It is connected to the internet, which is quite nice. We do have a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster here that is configurable, not in a super easy way. You can kind of do it here using these weird touch capacitive buttons. I've complained about these in previous Lexus models before, but I won't go into too much detail about it here. The base screen here is actually going to be a 7-inch gauge cluster. So this is the larger 12.3-inch screen. We do have a 12-speaker Mark Levinson, or 12 speaker is going to be your base audio system. This is the 21 speaker Mark Levinson. We are in the upper trim of the 500 F Sport, and we can have up to 7 USB ports. We've got 3 of them up here, 2 in the second row and 2 in the third row, as well as a wireless charger that does slide to reveal more storage. Speaking of the storage in this car, it is pretty fantastic. I love these cup holders. As you can see, they can fit like a really big bottle here, no problem. But you can also remove them altogether. These cup holders are modular. So they have this little button, they go ahead and come out, and you could take them out. So now you could just have this really nice large storage area. Maybe you only need 1 cup holder, maybe you don't have a passenger. You can lock it here in the middle, and now you have storage for a phone or whatever here, some more storage on the other side, or you could go ahead and put it here wherever you want. This is a very clever cup holder design. Now, I mentioned that the TX is the longest Lexus that they currently sell, and that is going to pay dividends when it comes to passenger space back here. Now, if you want a full 7-seater, you're going to have to get the TX 350, the gas model. Both of the hybrid versions, including this 500h F Sport, are only going to come with these captain's chairs right here. Now, on the upper trim, these captain's chairs are actually heated and ventilated, just like they are on the Grand Highlander. That is a feature that is not offered on the Infiniti QX60 or the Acura MDX, which is quite nice here. As we can see, we've got a nice amount of legroom, up to 39.5 inches. It doesn't look like that much because this seat is in its memory position where it went ahead and scooted back. I can go ahead and scoot over here, slide this seat back a little bit. You can see that the legroom is much more generous. We have all of our climate controls here. We've got 2 USB-C ports, as I mentioned right here. And we even have these sunshades. These are actually standard on all TX models. And the other thing I want to show you, that if you get the captain's chairs, you are going to get this configurable center console here. So this is actually really nice. I really like this setup here. We've got those same modular cup holders that come out here in the middle. So we've got 2 of them that can come out if you just want to make this a storage bin without cup holders. On these sides, these are actually grooves that are large enough to fit 2 iPads on either side, which is quite nice. And if your kids aren't really going to use this, you can just go ahead and remove it altogether. So now you just have a nice pass through into the third row. Speaking of the third row, one big complaint that I had with the Grand Highlander was that it was very annoying to flip the seat forward. You do still have manual controls here for these captain's chairs, but Lexus did put this little button right here. You can go ahead and push that to just eject this captain's chair forward, making it really easy to get into the third row. They have this really nice carve out so that it's not a big step up into the vehicle. We've got nice rubber padding on these tracks so your kids don't get hurt on that. And we do even have kind of this nice grab handle right here to make it really easy to get into the third row, which can sit 2 people. Now, if I come back here, you can see I have a lot of legroom if I don't fully lock this seat all the way back. And I'll go ahead and slide over here because we do have about 33 inches of legroom. So even with the seat all the way back, it is not quite touching my knees. So an adult person can fit back here. There is plenty of legroom. You even have a cup holder back here. You've got this little button to help adjust the back seat. So as you can see, we can move and tilt this back seat to get a little bit more comfortable here. It does go back really far. Look at the difference between that. That is a lot of recline there. And then the other thing that's really cool is we can actually unlock one of these cup holders. Maybe somebody up there doesn't have a bottle. We can go ahead and click it into place back here. And now we've got 2 cup holders back here. So that is really nice. Getting out of the third row is just as easy. Push this little button. It's going to go ahead and do the same deal. And now I can go ahead and get on out. And then in addition to those buttons to recline the seats, you can actually control them from here as well. So you've got a button, so let's just say you're back here, you can go ahead and put that back where it was, or you can go ahead and fold it down altogether from the second row. And wrapping up with the cargo space, the TX benefits from being on the same platform as the Grand Highlander, because the Grand Highlander is the biggest thing in its class aside from the Chevy Traverse. So you get 20.2 cubic feet of space behind the third row. That is a lot of space on a vehicle of this size. That is more than the Acura MDX. It is more than the Infiniti QX60. You don't really get a lot of storage underneath, but you do have on the upper trims power third row, as we've already demonstrated from getting into the third row. The only problem is, as you can see, it takes a really, really long time to put down. This is painfully slow to wait for, but once it's down, you get 57.4 cubic feet of space. That is absolutely massive. And if we fold down that second row, we're going to have a whopping 97 cubic feet of space. Nothing in this segment is going to go ahead and beat that. The only problem is, to put these seats down, you are going to have to walk all the way over here, and it is a 2-step process. I believe you have to pull this one. So you have to pull this one first, right? And then it's going to want to slide into that seat. Then you have to pull this one, hope that it doesn't hit that front seat, and then it folds flat. I've seen it done a little better where you only need 1 latch or 1 button to do that. So that is a little bit annoying, but the cubic feet of space here is absolutely massive. There aren't going to be any other luxury crossovers that are going to beat this. All right, so now let's finally get the Lexus TX, the Lexus Texas, out on the road. And I'm gonna start with the most basic, but also probably the most popular drivetrain that you'll be able to get on the TX, which is going to be the TX 350. And 350 might make you think 3.5 liter V6, but we know that those numbers really don't mean anything in response to how big the engine is anymore. We actually have a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. This is the same setup that we've got in a variety of Lexus and Toyota vehicles now, including the smaller NX and RX models. Now we know that the TX shares its platform with the Toyota Grand Highlander, and it shares a drivetrain as well, this 2.4 liter 4-cylinder, which is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and you can get front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The one that I happen to be driving right now is front-wheel drive. Now with front-wheel drive, you'll get from 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds, 7.8 seconds if you get all-wheel drive, so a little quicker if you get the all-wheel drive version. The engine produces 275 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. That's about 10 more horsepower and about 7 more pound-feet of torque than what you're going to get from out of this very same engine in the Toyota Grand Highlander. Although I have talked to both Toyota and Lexus engineers about this, and I think the only real difference is that this is going to ask for premium fuel, whereas the Grand Highlander, you can run it on regular fuel. So I think if you were to put regular fuel on this, this would probably produce the same amount of power as the Grand Highlander. That being said, having driven the Grand Highlander, I do think that the TX offers some improvemements in comfort. I think the suspension is a little bit more comfortable here. You get a lot less road noise. The Grand Highlander had a fair bit more road noise. The TX's cabin is very quiet, very Lexus-like. I don't know if it's the most quiet cabin I've driven in a Lexus, but it's certainly not loud. This is a very nice, comfortable family car. Now, in terms of fuel economy, the TX 350 is going to be the least efficient of the lineup. You're going to get 21 mpg in the city, 27 on the highway, 23 combined. That's with front-wheel drive. Those numbers will drop a little bit if you get all-wheel drive. And that fuel economy is okay for the 3-row luxury segment. It's not terrible, but it's certainly not amazing either. But it might make you want to think twice about getting the 350 and spending up on one of the 2 hybrid models that are available for the TX trim, because not only are they both more powerful than the TX 350, they're also both more fuel efficient. So I think let's go ahead and hop out of the TX 350 and back into a 500H. So now we've hopped into the TX 500H F Sport. That is the only way to get a TX 500H. There is no non-F Sport version of this trim. Now, if you're looking for a family 3-row with a little bit of excitement, this is going to be the trim for you. This has the same 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that you get in the TX 350, but now we've got 2 electric motors contributing 366 horsepower total and 406 pound-feet of torque. Those are the same numbers that we had in the RX 500 F Sport Performance. And just like that RX, and unlike most Lexus hybrids that have come before it, this hybrid has a 6-speed automatic transmission. And the real way that you're going to benefit from that is you're not going to have that rev hang that you would get from a direct drive or an eCVT. Instead, you're going to have that crisp feeling of changing gears as you accelerate. In fact, I will now demonstrate that. Foot down. Well, that gear lasted quite a while, but we did hear a couple of shifts in there. This is also the only version of the TX that's going to get rear wheel steering and a sportier adaptive variable suspension. And right now I have the car in sport mode, and we're going over this kind of pre-torn up road that's about to get some road work done on it. I feel a little bit more vibration than I did in the standard steel suspension, but it's certainly not uncomfortable. The difference here is that everything just feels a little bit tighter in the F Sport. We've got a little bit tighter steering. We've got that rear wheel steering doing its job, making this vehicle feel a lot smaller than it really is, something that you don't have on any of the other TX models. And you've got that sportier adaptive variable suspension, keeping it a little more controlled through the corners. This is definitely not a sporty vehicle. It is a 3-row crossover after all, but if you want the best body control, you'll definitely find it here in the F Sport Performance model. I also really love this drivetrain. It just kicks me every time when I drive one of these Lexus or Toyota vehicles that has the 6-speed automatic transmission with a hybrid system, because it reminds me of how good and how sporty these systems could have been. Not that the regular hybrid systems with the eCVT are bad, it's just that, oh, yes. It just feels a lot more fun when you have some gears to row through. In terms of performance, we'll get from 0 to 60 in just 6.1 seconds in this TX 500H F Sport Performance model. So that is significantly quicker than the all-wheel drive version of the TX 350. 7.8 seconds in that, 6.1 seconds in this. So you are dropping by almost a full 2 seconds here. And while you're getting faster, you're also getting more fuel efficient, because this is still a hybrid after all. You're going to be getting 27 mpg combined. So maybe you'll do a little bit better on the regular 350 on the highway, but if you're not planning on doing a lot of highway and you're just kind of driving around normally, utilizing the hybrid motor, you'll actually get better fuel economy here on the 500H. So far, I'm gonna say that the 500H F Sport is my favorite one to drive. It is gutsy. It's got the right amount of power that you would want from this type of vehicle. It's not too overly powerful, but this just makes those naturally aspirated V6s in the Acura and the Infiniti competitors just feel really weak, especially with 406 pound-feet of torque. But there is one more version of the TX that we've got to check out. So sadly, I'm going to pull over on the TX 500H and step into the final powertrain. And last but not least, we are driving what is perhaps the most interesting powertrain on the new TX, the TX 550H Plus. So plus in Lexus nomenclature means plug-in hybrid, and 550, as you could probably guess from there being a 350 and a 500, means that this is actually the most powerful version of the TX that you can buy. So the 550h Plus gets a V6 engine. It's actually the only version of the TX to get a V6, and it is also the first ever Lexus product to have a V6 paired with a plug-in hybrid drivetrain. So the combination of the gasoline V6 and the electric motors is going to produce 404 horsepower. Lexus does not quote a torque figure for this particular hybrid system, unlike the 500h, but this is the most powerful version of the TX you can buy. It's also the quickest version at just 5.9 seconds to 60 miles per hour. Now, this might be the quickest version of the TX, but it's not necessarily the sportiest, because this is not an F Sport like the TX 500h is, and it does not have a 6-speed geared transmission. This is sort of a more old school Lexus hybrid system in that it uses an eCVT. If you don't know what that means, it basically means that this car has one singular gear that it goes through. So when I floor it, it's just gonna pick 1 RPM and stick there. It's not going to fake gear changes like some eCVTs might do. And just like the 500h, we do have a direct 4 all-wheel drive system as standard on this plug-in hybrid model. But the difference is that we have a much larger battery here so that we can drive on electric power only for 33 miles. Lexus doesn't actually quote how big the battery is, but given the size of this vehicle and a 33-mile range, it must be quite sizable. The way that you can control that is right here on this little hybrid button. So this is going to switch you from EV mode to hybrid mode. So right now I am in EV mode. You're going to notice a lot less power than when the V6 is kicked on. What is interesting is that you can floor it fully in electric mode, and even past kickdown, it is not going to kick on the V6 engine. You've got to activate hybrid mode for that. Hybrid mode is kind of going to best balance the gas engine and the electric motor. So now when I floor it, engine kicks right on. It knows you need a quick burst of acceleration, and because it's an eCVT, it's actually really quick, really responsive, and very smooth as well. Just not quite as sporty as the TX 500h. That being said, this is not only the most powerful version of the TX, but it is also the most fuel efficient. You're going to get 29 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, and 28 combined, meaning that this is more fuel efficient than the TX 500h. So that might be one reason to buy one. The only thing is, we don't know how much this TX 550h Plus is going to cost over a 500h. I'll be interested to see that little price gap and whether or not this qualifies for a tax credit, because this is also the first Lexus PHEV that's actually built in the United States. It is a pretty interesting drivetrain here, this V6 plug-in hybrid, very smooth, very quiet. If you plan on using the electric range a lot, this might be a decent buy for you, because you could probably save a lot on gas if you're just doing your commute in the morning and you can charge up at home. But I think this is kind of a niche within the TX lineup, and I can definitely see the 350 and the 500h models being a little bit more widely appealing. So that was the 2024 Lexus TX. If you enjoyed this video, it would be awesome if you would like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. Now, the gas and regular hybrid version of the TX both go on sale in the fall of 2023. If you want to wait for that PHEV model, it's not coming until 2024, and we do not currently have pricing on it yet. If you want the base TX 350 with front-wheel drive, it's going to start at just over $55,000. If you want to add all-wheel drive to that, it's going to be about $1,600. There is a premium front-wheel drive trim that's about $58,450. Again, you can get all-wheel drive on that. And the luxury trim is going to start at just under $61 grand. Now, here's where things get interesting. This F Sport performance trim is the one I really like, but it is a lot more expensive. So remember, it does have all-wheel drive as standard, so you're really wanting to compare it to a 350 luxury all-wheel drive, which is $62,550. But stepping all the way up to the 500h F-Sport is gonna start at $69,350. And if you want the performance luxury, like we've driven, that is a whopping $72,650. So this is about $10,000 more expensive than the equivalent 350. I know you're getting a lot more power, and I know you're getting a lot more fuel economy, but I just don't know if everybody is going to be willing to do that. I think more people are going to gravitate towards the 350 model. It's going to be plenty powerful for most people, and they will just have to live with the fuel economy. I maybe think Lexus might have made a mistake not offering a TX 350h with just the regular non-turbo 4-cylinder and a hybrid system, but I worry that would have maybe been a little bit too slow for the Lexus brand. Let me know in the comments, would you choose the Lexus TX over an Infiniti or an Acura? And heck, would you choose it over a Kia Telluride or a Hyundai Palisade? Let me know in the comments. And as I said before, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I'll see you next time.